Hi, I'm Tom. This is Lucy, and this is Kitty Help Desk. So today I just wanted to talk to you about the cost of caring for a cat in 2025 because, we've all had inflation affect our lives, and I feel like there's not a lot of real numbers batted around, and it can really be a little bit of a black void when you start considering, hey, can I afford to have a cat? Can I afford to care for a cat or possibly a second cat? So all of these things are highly variable. Okay. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about, and I have my phone here because I have some numbers that I kind of went through all my receipts over the last year and tried to figure out really what it cost me to care for Lucy here. Because we lost Miss Mina almost exactly a year ago. And that gives me a very clear indication of what the costs have been since then for caring for Lucy. Now, like I said, there are lots of variables here. There are lots of different things in every single category, and those prices are a huge range. I'm not here to try to defend my choices. I'm not here even to try to convince you that you should spend more on your cats, which you should, but that's a different story. The story I'm here to tell you today is real world costs of what it costs me to care for Lucy. And then I also figured out what the lowest cost would be for me to care for Lucy. Based on all the numbers, I went out and tried to find the least expensive of every item in order to just put together as just sort of an exercise what the lowest cost would be. And it may surprise you because, frequently when we attach numbers to things, we think of them in terms of longer scales of time. A lot of times in everyday life, we just think about what it costs us today or this week or this month. But I'm talking about over the course of an entire year. And when you start adding this stuff up, it adds up fairly rapidly. So let's just get into it. I went through my Chewy orders, and this is not a Chewy advertisement. I just, that's where I order most of the pet food and accessories and vitamins and supplements and treats and all these things. This is where I get them because they're reliable. They always deliver to me within a couple of days. The only time they haven't was during the pandemic, and that was a problematic time for everybody. And they're not Amazon. And I have to tell you, even though I do occasionally spend money at Amazon, I'm not a fan of supporting Amazon. I'm not a fan of supporting any retailer unless they're trying to support me. And I do feel like to a certain degree that Chewy does a pretty good job of living up to what I expect to get from them. That's really all that relationship is about. Anyone who has a religious fervor for a retailer kind of needs to check their head a little bit, okay? Because they don't care about you. Just like social media companies don't care about you. You really just have to base it on whether they live up to their promises and whether they deliver what you think you should get for your money. That's really all this is about. So I'm not proselytizing for Chewy. This just happens to be where I bought this. So I went through and I had 16 Chewy orders over the course of a year. Those included a lot of different things, like I said before. And the total of those orders was $2,056.31. This is for Lucy. I divided that by 12, and I got a monthly average spend of $171.36. Not too bad so far. Now, I also had to add in there, I buy most of my litter locally because the thought of shipping litter around just seems ridiculous to me. And so I try to buy it locally. When I can find unscented clumping litter locally, I'll get it. And most of the time I end up buying that at Target here because I tend to do grocery shopping at Target from time to time, and I can buy a couple boxes of litter at a time. So the litter that I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boxes of litter over that 1 year, and that cost me $157.30. Now, this doesn't include taxes or anything. This is just the price on the shelf. So that when I add that into the total, the new total is $2,213.61. You divide that by 12 and you get $184.47 per month on average. So we're below $200 a month. But $200 a month, that's not an insignificant amount, okay? A lot of people are going to be like, they look at a cat and they're like, maybe you don't have a cat. And you think, well, it's just a little bit of food. I bet I can get away with, $20 a month, $30 a month. That's probably not likely to be that. Now I'm feeding Lucy some relatively high quality food. I'm trying to give her the best of everything. She gets only a wet food diet. Wet food tends to be fairly expensive, kind of overpriced in my opinion, but that's what it is. And but everything else, she gets pretty much what other cats get. And so this is not unrealistic, okay? So I have to also add veterinary visits. Now, Lucy had a few veterinary visits this year. She had a few problems because of that, and because of her Solensia. That's a prescription medication that she's on that's running about $100 a month, okay? That's a lot. So her total for the last year, which only included 8 months worth of Solensia, was $914 for veterinary care. So now I add that in and I get $3,127.61. And I divide that by 12 and I get $260.63 per month average. And that's with only half a year on Solensia. So that average would be skewed higher for another year where she was getting Solensia 12 months out of the year instead of just 6 months out of the last year. So then that's really $260.63 per month. That's pretty much what my average was for the last year. Real world. No trying to compensate for the Solensia or anything like that. That's real. That's $260.63 per month. That's a lot of money. Now, when you start adding more cats, you can literally double, triple, quadruple that. Okay, if you're giving them a high quality food, that comes up to be a substantial dollar amount. Now, if you're starting from scratch, if you don't have a cat now and you're going to get a cat, there are expenses associated with that. First are adoption fees. Now, I looked at my local humane society, and for cats who are less than 6 months old, that's a $100 fee. If they are greater than 6 months old, that's a $50 fee. So that's at the Humane Society. At the shelter, my local shelter, if they're less than 6 months old, right now, they do some strange things sometimes. $60, buy one, get one free, is the adoption fee. And if they're over 6 months of age, they're free. So we're going to consider that a wash. I'm just going to say, hey, look, if you want to get a cat for free, you can get a cat for free. Okay, I'm not going to include that in the overall price. So let's say you get your cat for free, but you also need supplies. So basic supplies are going to, again, be a range of costs. So I want to kind of cover the range here. We want to start with a carrier because most adoption agencies and rescues will not allow you to leave with a cat that's not in a carrier. Now, some of them will give you those cardboard carriers. I'm not a big fan of that. I really think it shows your intent. It shows that you've put some thought into it and that this is not a knee-jerk thing when you show up to adopt your cat and you already own a carrier, okay? Some of the rescues would agree with me on that, and they would require that you purchase a carrier prior to showing up to adopt your cat. So a carrier is going to range in price anywhere, the ones I saw online, anywhere from $20.49 for a soft-sided carrier from a company called Zampa. And then there's a PetMate makes a hard-sided carrier that's $21.64. And then the one I recommend, would probably be no shock to you, is from Doc and Phoebe's. It's $88.12. And there's been a review. I'll try to post links to reviews for any of these items that I own and have reviewed in the past. So that's quite a range, $20 to $88. I feel like the $88 is not really a necessary luxury. Although if a cat is particularly frightened going to the vet, then that carrier is well worth every dollar you spend on it, because the top of it removes and they can stay in the bed while they're at the vet and they can be examined inside the carrier. These other carriers, they're perfectly fine. $20, $21, perfectly fine. Okay. Then the next things you're going to want to consider are the supplies at home. So let's say you just buy one bowl for them to eat from. You're going to wash it. So that's $3.99. A water fountain, which I strongly recommend. Cats descended from a desert-dwelling wildcat species. They don't have much of a thirst drive. They need to be encouraged to drink. It's very important that they get as much wet food, as high a percentage of their diet should be wet food as you can afford. But even if you're just feeding them dry food, giving them a fountain, a water fountain, can help encourage them to drink more water. Even if it's not quite enough, it's still better than nothing. So I really recommend a fountain. And I found, amazingly enough, that there was a water fountain at Chewy for $17.06. And that's an all plastic fountain. There was one with a steel bowl that was only $28.43. So it's not too terrible. For bed, my favorite bed for cats is just a fleece throw folded in half twice. Cats love it, and you can throw it in the washer. It's very easy to clean. And if it gets damaged or destroyed, you can toss it. It's not expensive. These purpose-made cat beds, things that are built for cats, are always more expensive because there's a much smaller market for those products than there are for things like fleece throws. Target has fleece throws. I looked this up. They have different patterns and colors and things for each season of the year. You could even replace them every so often throughout the year, so you have different looks and things. Those are only $10. Okay. Now, litter box. This becomes a kind of a big area because they can range so drastically in price. Litter boxes are often too small for cats. I find that most of the litter boxes that are on the shelves at local pet stores tend to be too small because they don't want to devote the shelf space that would be needed to house several very large boxes. So what happens is you end up only being able to get these items from a place like Amazon, and then you go there, and because Amazon lies to us about the free shipping, they're including the shipping charge in the price of every product. Since we're paying for shipping, you get these outrageously inflated prices on some of the litter boxes because they're so large. I bought a litter box, and I'm not ashamed to say I actually did buy it on Amazon because they're the only ones that had it. It was one that I really wanted to try, and one that has been very successful for Lucy at keeping her from kicking litter out of the box. But that was $60. $60 for a plastic box is insane. But you got to imagine that box actually costs $30, and it's probably $30 worth of shipping because of the dimensional weight of the product. So you just have to be aware of that. That's what you're going to be paying. I was looking on there, and there's a 30-gallon tote that's available at Target that's only $12. And you could take a Dremel, or even in some cases a pair of scissors or a box cutter, and you could cut a hole out of the side of it. And those are perfectly good litter boxes, provided the interior of it doesn't have a bunch of ridges and fins and things like that supporting the sides. I often recommend to clients to use Rubbermaid storage totes as litter boxes because the sides are very high, and you can get them with the entry on the long side of the box as opposed to the short side. The dirty little secret is that when a cat goes into a box that has the opening in the short side, they go in and they're positioned to go, they're likely to kick litter back and forth in this direction. If the entry is in the long side, they go in and they have to turn, and then they're less likely to kick litter out of the side of the box. That was highly beneficial with Lucy because when I first got Lucy, she was kicking about half of the litter out of the box every single time she got into it. So I went through a bunch of boxes before I could figure out exactly how this worked for her and what was the best option. And this entry in the long side of the box is really the way to go. And those are the boxes that are going to be really super expensive. That's the $60 box on Amazon. So the box that is made out of a tote, that's your cheapest option. Now, there was also a PetMate box on Chewy that was only $14.34. And that's with free shipping. I'm not sure how they're managing that, but that's pretty amazing. That's not a bad option either. The other thing you need you need a scratcher, and it needs to be a tall, solid scratcher, okay? So in many cases, I think that this is best solved by getting a tall cat tree that has a scratcher built into it. But if you just want a scratcher, what I would encourage you to do is have both a horizontal cardboard scratcher that's large enough for the cat to stand on it, and also have a vertical scratcher that's tall enough for them to really stretch out, and that's really got a big, wide, solid base that's got some heft to it. So what I found was a Sungrow scratcher is the name of the company, and that's a cardboard scratcher for $7.95. And then I found a vertical scratcher from a company called House Panther, Haus Panther, for $24.49, which is not so bad. And then we want to have some toys, of course. My number one recommendation for toys is using scraps of paper, wadded up into balls, or some leftover twine. Now, you want to be careful with string toys. Always put them away. Don't leave them out where the cats can get to them. They might actually accidentally pull them down their throats. But with the paper toys, I recommend using your junk mail for that, because it's got stimulating scents from the outside world. Cats love it, okay? All these products, all these toys, they're really actually manufactured for people. They're manufactured to amuse you, and that's how they get you to buy them. This is all marketing to people because cats don't have any money. So we want to avoid all that, because you can just use wads of paper. You can take your junk mail, wad it up in a ball. Every day the cat can get a brand new toy with new scents on it. At the end of the day, it goes in the recycling. Tomorrow they get a new one. So the lowest cost for all of these things, the minimum of all those supplies is only $95.98. That's absolutely amazing to me, that for $100 you can get all the basic supplies that you need for a cat, and you can adopt a cat for free. So what that means is, if you're going to adopt a cat, you've got a range of choices, and those choices can quickly get out of hand if you don't budget this out to begin with. So what I wanted to do also is I wanted to figure out what the lowest cost would be for 1 year of supplies. This is without a lot of consideration for quality. Let me just admit that, okay? This is sort of bare minimum kind of thing. So here's what I looked at. For food, you can get a 20-pound bag of cat chow. If you're on average feeding the cat 8 ounces a day, that equals 40 days worth of food in that bag, roughly 9 bags per year, for $144.99 a year. Now, if you're going to feed your cat kibble, strongly recommend that you add moisture. You add some water to it. You add whatever, to make it more of a carrier for moisture for them. If you can, really consider wet food, okay, if you can afford it. Treats, I really had a big question mark here according for the treats, because it's impossible to kind of put a quantity on this. So I just chose something basic, one of the 30-ounce tubs of Temptations. I figure for most cats, that's probably going to last them about a year. That's $15.48. On top of that, we're talking about at least one vet exam for the year. That's with my vet, that's $95. Now that's assuming that vaccinations were completed at the time of adoption. Cat litter, the least expensive I could find was Tidy Cat's non-clumping. That comes out to be 35 cents a pound. I tried to figure out how many pounds I used, And that total for the cat litter comes up to be $101.50. Now, if I use my cat litter, the Arm & Hammer, that price is quite a bit more. It ends up being $168.20. So that's sort of the range there. But the minimum total for a cat for 1 year of life in your home with everything that they need, the bare minimum though, is $356.97. So if you look at what I'm spending, which I was, with all the medications and everything, I'm spending over $3,000 a year. You can get away with the lowest cost of everything, including the first year. So this is everything, including the lowest cost supplies and the lowest cost of adoption and all this stuff together, $452.95 for the first year. When I divided it out, it came out to about $37.75 a month. Now that's the minimum, okay? That's the bare minimum. I think that $37.75 is a little skewed to the south of the actual total, which is probably going to be closer to $50 a month. $50 a month is less than most people's phone bills, and you can have a companion that is entertaining and loving and a part of your family for that price. That's sort of amazing. As you move up the chain and spending more money, especially on food. The food is what's going to drive you sky high. But the food is also, very important to understand, an investment in your cat's future. We have an epidemic of chronic kidney disease in this country, and kibble is a major culprit in that. So it's important to understand that. Again, if that's all you can afford, that's okay. All right? Cat is going to survive on it. They're just not going to live as long or be as healthy in the long term. They'll be fine in the short term, but in the long term, they're not going to be as healthy. So you may have additional vet bills down the line that you wouldn't have if you had fed them an all-wet diet. Now, all of this is conjecture. You never know. Anything can happen. Sometimes cats die unexpectedly for other reasons. That doesn't insure. There's no insurance policy. The wet food is not an insurance policy, but I do feel like it's a firm investment, okay? It's a firm investment both in the behavior of your cat, because wet food provides greater satisfaction in them, but also in their long-term health. Just do what you have to do to support your family. We all make compromises. We all have to make choices about where we spend our money, or most of us do. And so make the best choice you can. That's all I'm saying. And if you can afford to make it half wet food, half dry food, that's great. It really is a step in the right direction. Do the best you can. So I hope that clears things up. I know maybe it muddies things up a bit more because there's such a huge range. But I'm very surprised at the low end of the range for adopting, getting all the supplies set up, and having a year worth of care for the cat is as low as $500. That's really not nearly as much as I thought it would be. Probably because I spend more than that. But it really is very reasonable. And if you're looking to adopt a cat, I could not recommend a better friend. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.